Hello and welcome back, everybody, to True Remembrance. You remember this game? If not, it's probably my fault because I haven't played it in ages. And the reason is pretty simple. And I'm not shitting you here. I basically didn't want it to end. Because I'm having, this game is just too good, you know? I really, this is really an experience. And I kind of feel bad that this experience has to end soon, you know. But, as we say in German, everything has an end. Only the sausage has two. So, let's continue, shall we? I got up off the sofa, but everything was still really hazy. Sure, I wasn't a morning person, obviously, but it was particularly tough today. Oh, don't get me wrong, I wasn't in a bad mood or anything. It was just, part of me was still dreaming, or at least it really felt like it. I couldn't focus on anything. I kept feeling like I'd been listening to someone singing. And I kept feeling like La had been close beside me. So, La had to have been the singer of the song, right? Except that was completely impossible. This was Maria's song. From so long ago. Oh, okay. So did she actually sing her song? This Maria person we don't really know all that much about, except that you were very close to her? Did she sing the same song? Or was it because you were dreaming that you changed the song in your head? Maybe that is why I felt so ill at ease right now. I got up off the sofa. Quickly, before any more unwanted thoughts rushed into my head. There were sounds coming from the kitchen. Rather, there had been sounds coming from the kitchen ever since I'd opened my eyes. I could smell eggs and toast being cooked up. It was wonderful. I was starting to get really hungry. This was kind of unexpected. Allah didn't usually get up early enough to cook breakfast for me. I have the feeling she didn't sleep at all. I walked into the kitchen, and sure enough, there was La. No, there La was, frying pan in hand, and a big smile on her face. Black Iris, good morning. Cold out, isn't it? Good morning. Her voice was cheerful, and her smile was warm, but her eyes were puffed and red. Obviously, she had been crying again. Take a seat, please. Let's eat, before it gets cold. She could see that I was worried about her, obviously, but she kept bustling about cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. This was her way. I had learned that much in my time with her, always dancing and sidestepping in order to make sure no one had to fuss over her. But was this not, in its own way, the most silent hypocrisy? For she fussed over each and every person around her. Well, yeah, you have to take care about yourself. I mean, of course, it's kind of a good character trait if you... I don't even know if you can say that it's good being more concerned about other people than yourself. But it's usually that good people, at least we can say this, good people are usually more concerned about others than themselves. I mean, there are also good people who care about themselves as much as about other persons, don't get me wrong. But you know what I'm talking about, don't you? We took coffee after our meal, as had become our tradition. Now, ever since our first time there, she had been taking lessons from Rook at Aroma, which was why the drinks she offered me grew tastier and tastier by the day. The funny thing was, she never drank the stuff herself. It was always some form of milk for her. If I had to guess, I'd say that was because she was painfully aware of how short she was. Silly, of course. She could drink all the milk in the world, and it wouldn't help her in that regard, but still admirable, in its own way. Yeah, she can drink milk because she likes it. Ah well. I took another sip. Silence filled the room. I wanted to ask her about the song. It didn't seem possible. How would she know about, much less able to sing, that song? But still. La. She looked up at me from her mug of hot milk. Up at me from... How many prepositions do you can put after one and each other in a row? English, me old foe. I was at a total loss for words when her eyes met mine. How exactly was I going to explain this? I didn't see any way I could do so, and still managed to keep Maria out of it, which meant... No, never mind. You could just ask her about the song she sang, you know? That would be an easy explanation. Okay. She was obviously curious about what I'd been about to say, but she didn't probe any further. This was part of what made her such an ideal guest. She knew when to stop asking questions. Yeah, that's right. She was my guest. It was high time I started treating her like one. So I took care of the cleanup after breakfast. Now I was in the middle of doing that when I opened the refrigerator. Oh wow, we were almost out of food. We'd have nothing to eat at all if I didn't go shopping soon. Hey La, I'm going to go grocery shopping today. Would you like to come? Oh, actually, I think I'll pass. For today. I almost dropped the plate I was washing when I heard this. It wasn't like La to be evasive or to refuse to go out. What? It wasn't like La to be evasive or to refuse to go out. I'd never seen her behaving this way in all the time I'd known her. So she is actually planning to leave. Or is she? But why didn't she leave during the night then? Oh well. First breakfast, and now this. No matter which way you sliced it, I was in for an interesting day. Still not feeling too well? No, I'm fine. It's just, well... There obviously had to be some reason for why she had become so tongue-tied this morning, but I decided not to press on her on it. I mean, I certainly had days when I didn't feel like going out. Why couldn't she? Sorry. And she really did look sorry. So I smiled wryly, shook my head and said, Oh, don't worry about it. I'm your guide after all. I'm supposed to do things like this for you. Besides, to be totally honest, I kind of wanted to be alone. I cleared the table and washed the dishes after breakfast. I could feel La's eyes on me as I buttoned up my coat and wrapped my scarf around my neck. When I opened the door to leave, I turned to find her smiling back at me weakly. Is she gone when he comes back? Oh, no. But I swear this game has to have a good ending. I cannot accept if it's rare that I have this. I mean, for example, in White Sky, the RPG Maker game I just played, I kind of had the feeling like I really want to have a good ending for both of the characters, and I also said that, I think. But here it's like really, really important to me that this has an happy ending. Like, for real, I can't take if La gets her brainwashed or whatever they call it, memory-sided, I don't know. Or if she just leaves and they never see each other again. I really can't handle that. The sky outside was grey, and the clouds were ready to burst. I'd be lucky if I managed to finish shopping before the snow started falling. I walked toward the trolley station. Every so often, strangers passed by me. There was no one at my side. It would already been a month since La had first come to town. Enough time to forget my solitude. Enough of her to forget that I'd ever walked these streets alone. That was just the problem. Nowadays, I was getting increasingly impatient, just being around her. Oh, no, I'm not saying that I was getting annoyed or bored. Far from it, but whenever we weren't making small talk, we were just sitting in each other's company, reading books. We were cut off from the outside world, trapped in total silence but for the occasional turning of pages. But there was one thing I could always count on. If I were to just call her name, she'd always answer me, with a big smile on her face and warmth in her eye that could thaw the iciest heart. The problem here was, I was getting awfully used to this. I couldn't understand it. How did she become this much of a part of me? Thus the impatience. Thus why I was making a concerted effort to treat her as my guest. It might be days, or weeks, or maybe even months, that she would be leaving this town, sooner or later. That was what she wanted, right? Otherwise, why would she have come to this god-forsaken place to begin with? If we simply kept on going as we had, the parting was going to be awfully hard. Hard? For whom exactly? She'd be leaving this place with a memory of it entirely deleted. Nothing hard about that. Better stop thinking about this. In any case, I was at the station. No point in wasting any more time in useless pondering. Once I boarded the trolley and took a seat, I decided that I'd take a scenic detour. After all, it was going to take me all of 30 minutes to do my shopping. I am so sorry I'm reading stuff wrong the whole time. I didn't particularly feel like returning home that early. So where to? Speaking of which, I hadn't been back to my apartment on 5th in an entire month. That is actually a good idea. Like, at least once in a while you should check on your house. Like, we all know, even in these crazy government depression camp or whatever you all call it, what this is, even there are probably criminals. I had cleaned the place up right before embarking on this assignment, but there was probably a layer of dust an inch thick everywhere by now. Might as well make an appearance there. A few minutes later, the trolley arrived at the 5th Street station. Now, 5th had a few things in common with my old hometown. Okay. Promise, I'm not misreading anything anymore for the whole episode. Now, 5th had a few things in common with my old hometown. The spidery roads and the twisting alleyways, for instance. But the difference, and this overshadowed everything else, was, whereas that city was dirty and black with soot, this one was clean and white with snow. Pretty soon, I was standing in front of my apartment's door. I dug into my pockets and found my key. This had been sitting inside my coat for how long now? Good thing you not lost it. Like always when I put something in my pockets, in the pockets of my jacket. I swear to God it's gone by 2 days. And I'd have no idea how. Like I have no holes in my pockets or something like that. It's just, I don't know. I put my jacket over a chair and then something falls out of my pocket and I don't realize it and then it's gone. Always. Always. That's why I always put my stuff out of my pockets. I went inside. The lights were off, the curtains were shut, and the interior was dark. There was a fine film of dust everywhere, but otherwise things were actually pretty neat. I sat down on my bed and closed my eyes for a bit. 3 years. That's how long I'd been living here now. And yet I felt no attachment to the place. No rush of emotion. No feeling of homecoming. Just my bed and my desk and my books and a bunch of bric-a-brac that I didn't care much about. But then something on the wall caught my eyes. Wait a second. What was this doing here? I mean, this was a nice one-piece dress. Very cute, very well made and all. But it stood out like some alien artifact in my barren apartment. I didn't remember buying it for sure. Maybe someone had delivered it here on mistake? But if that was the case, wouldn't they have just left a delivery notice instead of unlocking the door and coming in? Jesus Christ, your post office has a key to your door? Oh, I mean, it's this weird world, so no wonder. This didn't make any sense, but I didn't have any other ideas. Well, I was at a loss for what to do with it, but I knew what I wouldn't do. Throw it out. Might as well leave it here until the owner came back to reclaim it. After all, I wouldn't be living here until my work with La was done. And no one, least of all me, knew how long that would take. In the end, I locked up and left, with the dress still on the wall. I really wonder what this is about. Maybe it was like the dude we met in the hospital. Yeah, right. He has to come into play one way or the other. Right, yeah. It would make no sense to introduce him to not bring him back, you know. Ah, so this is like Maria's dress or something, but then he would have recognized, I guess. I guess we shall see. I didn't know exactly what time it was. No working clocks in town after all. but I didn't know that it was still well before noon, so I'd not managed to burn that much time at all. The steeple of the old church caught my eye when I stepped outside. Now, given all that had happened, the sight didn't particularly fill me with joy, but I had nowhere else to go, so hey, why not? The streets were all but deserted. Strangers passed by each other in silence. Their footsteps babbled on concrete and mud before they, too, were forgotten. Fifth always was this way. Not that this came as any surprise. People of my profession lived here. And so long as we were on assignments more than we were off, this would continue to be the city where memories came to die. Now, there was another church in town, on 2nd Street. It was much newer and larger than the one here, so most guys took their religious guests there, and not here. Eventually, the number of people who attended this church dwindled down into nothing. Now only the building remained, and it, too, was falling to pieces. Isn't this the church where the terrorists were? Or am I just imagining that? Huh. By the way, this is a Catholic church. Because there is... Oh... God, Ooh, how do you call that in English? Well, the pictures of Jesus carrying the crucifix to the mountain. You know? That always is in Catholic churches. Come on, you know it, and if you don't... I can't speak English. I opened the door and went inside. I used to come here quite often in the past. Anali once lived here. I visited him often enough. Or Analyi, I forgot how I called him. Well, not quite. Given his position, the guy probably had a mansion somewhere. He too just came here to kill time. Probably. And really, it wasn't so much to kill time as to take care of this cute little kitten who had made this place her home. Wait a second. Right. The cat that used to live with me. She was Analyi. Okay, we'll go with Analyi. Analyi's to begin with. I just gave her a place to stay for a while. Where did she go after Analyi died, I wonder? Who was Analyi? Oh god, now I'm mixing up people. This is... But what was the guy we met in the hospital called again? Okay, to be honest, I don't remember right now. This church was where it all went down. Analyi, the cat, the gun. My memories of that time were vague at best. The emotions weighed down so heavily that even if I were to try to recall exactly what happened, I'd completely fail. I do remember this though. I didn't hate him at all. It was difficult to pull the trigger. I remember that too. Analyi is dead. And so is Maria. I couldn't tell you what she and I were to each other. Maybe we were lovers. Maybe we were just acquaintances. Didn't really matter. I never said a word to her about what I felt for her. And she never said a word to me either. What use was there in talking of tomorrow in a city that had no future? Only a fleeting present and a dead past. I think that's how we felt back then. That was why we let the future go. Why we let the future go. Promise broken, but I probably messed up somewhere else. Because we knew that it would melt away in our hands if we even reached out for it. Well, to be fair, that feeling hadn't changed very much over the years. But back then, Maria was my life. I probably would have died in the dark alleys of my old city if it hadn't been for her. No one would have known I ever existed. This was all ancient history. I wouldn't even have been thinking of any of this if it weren't for that dream. Such a bad dream for such a splendid dawn. No wonder my morning today was a mess. I sat at one of the benches and closed my eyes. Time passed. Everything inside me was quiet and still. And abnormal. If I came home like this, La was going to be worried sick about me. She knew me too well by now. I could just see her looking up at me, her eyes wide with alarm, No way. That was going to suck. So I finally stood up and walked out. I started walking toward the trolley station. The clouds were as heavy and grey as ever, but the snow hadn't started falling yet. Might as well catch some lunch at Aroma and go shopping after that. I hoped La would be able to fend for herself back at home. I swear to you, she isn't there anymore. I'm borderline convinced. There was someone quite unexpected at Aroma when I got there. Well, no, not really. She was quite expected. But it was still kind of a shock to see her. Welcome! Oh, hi Black Iris. Rook shot me a sheepish, awkward look as I walked in. So I turned my attention to Lips, who was standing right next to him, cleaning the countertop. Well, you see, kinda dangerous to make her hole up in her apartment till the heat's off her, so, I'm hiding her here. Any problem with that? Oh, and, of course Jackal is here too. Uh-huh. I nodded. But man, it was so funny watching him get flustered this way. Made me want to laugh. Come on, dude. Wipe that evil grin off your face already. I didn't do anything. Wrong, I swear. And I agreed with that. He hadn't done anything wrong at all. In fact, I'd say that for the first time in his life, he had done something right. Lips, in the meantime, had polished the countertop with such relentless fervor, I don't know what that word means, that it now outshone the overhead lights. Now I couldn't read her as easily as I could La, but it was still pretty obvious that she was feeling pretty embarrassed. Oh, I almost forgot. Here, this is yours, I believe. I took her gun out of my pocket and handed it over to her. She almost dropped the rag she had been using to clean the countertop in response. You've been walking around with this in your pocket this whole time? Well, it's not as if I wasn't guilty of the same thing, but what am I supposed to do with this now? Point. But I'm in the same situation here. So let's see. Why don't you ask Rook to dispose of it for you? He's good at that kind of thing after all. I was lying. There were a million different ways I could have disposed of that gun. But this one was the most interesting, you see. Rook cleared his throat with exasperation. I watched him as he began preparing to brew some coffee. This was getting more and more entertaining by the second. Looked like I made the right choice. Hey, tell me, what's been going on with you these days? Haven't seen you around these parts in forever. Oh, right. La got pretty sick for a while, so... Now it was my turn to get all embarrassed. It was richly deserved too. Only the most sloppy guy would let his guest catch a cold in the manner that I did. Man, how could ya? Rook just shook his head slowly. Lips, on the other hand, looked at me apologetically. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault, isn't it? Oh, that's how. To be honest, lady, you have screwed up way worse with this terror organization of yours. Now we still don't know, like... We don't know when the point was that she kinda like started betraying her organization, you know? We don't know when she decided to stop them and stuff like that. But still, I feel kind of conflicted about her letting her just off the hook, you know? On the other hand, as mentioned already in a former episode, I think, I'm not one to say like never forgive a person. If a person changed, I'm all for it. Oh well. Oh, that's how. Hey, all's well that ends well, eh? Poor La. It was nice and all of them to say that, but in the end it was still my fault that she had to go through all of that. I'd have to be a lot more careful with her from here on out. She's doing a lot better though, eh? She off shopping for stuff right now? No, actually she's at home. Rook and Lips looked at each other, then back at me. Obviously, this came as some kind of surprise. I was getting a bad feeling about the expressions on their faces, so I asked, "What is it? She was there, huh?" "Huh? But we saw her just a bit ago, right?" He turned to Lips, who looked bewildered for a second, but then nodded. "Yeah, I saw her around the trolley station when I went out to buy some dishwashing detergent. She was far away, and on top of that, she was already in the trolley, so I couldn't say hi to her or anything. I thought you were with her anyway." "She was at the station? Alone?" Lips shot me a strange look, something in between a frown and a grimace. Too bad. It was something she wasn't telling me. Maybe she didn't want to say it, but I wasn't about to back down either. The staring match continued for some time. Finally she sighed and said, "Your superior was with her." "Dexter?" "But they just met yesterday, at the hospital, really." "Oh, right, Dexter was his name. But I feel like I've heard the name Analyi before." Hmm. Well... Oh, wait a minute. Was Analyi the guy he shot in the church? But what does he have to do with Maria, you know? I'm getting all confused now. Maybe I misread something. Huh. Unless something happened while I'd gone to get her prescription filled. Maybe they just bumped into each other. Pure coincidence, like, you know? Perhaps. This was obviously his clumsy way of making me feel better about the situation. So I nodded. But in actuality, stay in this game long enough and you'll know that there's no such thing as a coincidence. There was no way that Dexter could have just coincidentally come around here to shop, coincidentally bump into La, and coincidentally bought the trolley with her. In other words, La had pulled a fast one on me. She had stayed at home in order to meet up with him. Ha ha ha. I guess this is a good moment to stop for now, isn't it? It seems the finale is not as close as I thought. I thought like we could do this in one episode that is like 50 minutes long or something. But I kind of feel like if we go on now, we'll probably do a 1.5 hour episode, and that wouldn't be all that good. Man, yeah, I knew that La would run away. I mean, everybody probably knew except for Black Iris, but still. And who is Analyi? I have to check my old episodes, if he was the leader of the terrorists. But man, I'm sorry, Black Iris, this sucks. Well, anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Come back for the next episode. And I'll see you then. Bye bye.